Hey everybody, Jody Pugh here. I want to welcome you to this very first episode of our podcast. Now, for the last 19 years, I have been the practice manager here at Melanie Pugh DMD down in Bonita Springs, Florida. And recently we've launched a new company called Pugh Leadership Academy, which is an organization to help other private practice doctors uh, learn from us in the way that we have done things. So prior to working with Melanie and leaving my corporate job, I was a corporate trainer. I was a sales manager, a marketing manager, and a corporate trainer. And there's so much that I've been able to bring over from my corporate life to this practice that's enabled us to build what we like to call a dream practice, or at least Melanie's dream practice. And we define that dream practice as it's self-managed, meaning we don't have to be here all the time. It's fee for service. We're completely out of network with insurance. It's a practice that brings joy to Melanie. It gives her life rather than sucks the life out of her. It's a practice with associates. We have three associates that do the vast majority of the dentistry, and they're very happy in their associateship. And we have employees who find meaning in their work. We have employees been here for many, many, many years. And our longest term employees about to, along with us, have her 20th year anniversary here. And a practice that has patients that not just love the practice, but they actually want to tell people about our practice before anyone even asks them. And they want to be part of us. And so we've been able to build that. And what we want to do is share the principles and the things that we have implemented in this practice over the years to help other private practice doctors who may be stressed or burned out or struggling and haven't yet found a voice, or they've gone to training programs and haven't been able to apply, or maybe haven't found exactly what works for them. So we're just out here sharing the things that we have learned in our philosophies that's helped us to build what we have. And so one of the things that we are doing is we are launching with an online course on building a world-class culture. Now, if you want to have a dream practice, you have to have a world-class culture. You just can't build the dream practice the way we define it without having a culture that matches. It'd be like Nick Saban at Alabama telling his team, hey, we're going to go win the national championship and culture doesn't matter. No, to win the national championship, culture very much matters. And so our first course teaches the principles of how to build that world-class culture so that you have the foundation to build the dream practice. And so from there, what we will be doing is bringing in 5 or 6 other courses. Now, my specialty in business is really the same as Melanie's specialty. And we like to call it the human side of business. And so we'll be facilitating courses either online or possibly in person, and we'll see how things go. But in the areas that we call the human side of business, which are not just culture, but marketing, case acceptance or sales, customer service, or what we call patient experience, leadership, and also a course on financial management, and finally a course on how to actually drop insurance companies. And so that's the future. And as we go along this journey, we're going to be doing this podcast. Invite you also. We have a community on Facebook, Private Practice Dentist, and it's a community that we are growing. One of the things that just kind of stinks about social media is you go into a group, you're like, oh, I'm really interested in this, and you pop in a question, and then you get about 50% of the answers are replying to your question, and there are, of those 50% of the people replying to your question, half of them are saying something that's completely not aligned with how you see things. And then the other 50% of the comments are either replies to you or to the other comments that are, sarcastic, or they're trolls, or they're negative or whatever. And so what we are doing with this community, we have a couple of other Facebook communities as well. We have a dental one right in our community. where we are. And our thing with the social communities, online communities, is we just don't do that. You don't have to, as an admin of a group or as a community, you don't have to tolerate. There's no rule that says that you have to let trolls or smart alecks or know-it-alls run roughshod in your group. So hope that you can find our community on Facebook and join us, where we will be facilitating a discussion, answering questions or asking questions, and in a real positive environment. So that's one of the things that we want to talk about. And the other thing that we want to talk about is just the podcast in and of itself. So in the communities or in the periodicals, the business magazines, the dental business magazines, or on Reddit, or all these different places, you see questions. Sometimes people will pose. And so often I see all the negativity, the know-it-alls, the smart alecks, the trolls, and all of that. And so what I thought we would do is, with this podcast, at least as we start it and get it launched, is take some of the questions that we see and answer them from how we would handle things. Now, when you ask a question and you have 10 different responses, you don't know anything about the practices, you don't know anything about their philosophy, you don't know where they're coming from, you don't know what their experience level is. And so here, as we answer these questions, you're going to know or have a better understanding of where we're coming from. Especially if you take our course, you most definitely will know where we're coming from. And so as I was looking at what would be a great question to launch the podcast with, I kind of scanned through, and I had my assistant scan through and look for some questions. I actually did a chat GPT and Claude, which is the other, or another artificial intelligence, and said, what are some questions? And so I've been generating a list of questions. I would love to hear the questions that people who might run across this podcast or join our group. I'd love to hear questions that you might like us to answer. And so the question that I chose actually came up from ChatGPT, and that it's not really a question, but the topic, the suggested podcast topic, was the future of dentistry. And so I want to talk a little bit about this from our perspective. And I will tell you, I don't know the future of dentistry. I don't know what the experts are saying about the future of dentistry. But I will tell you something that I read probably 15 or 20 years ago about the future of dentistry back then, how that played out, and how I didn't agree with what this person was saying back then. So probably early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s, I read an article in a business dental magazine, and it was a famous, expert talking about the future of corporate dentistry, DSOs, and how it would impact us, and gave the number of DSO practices and the percentage, and said along the lines of, this is something that's going to continue to grow, but you don't have to be too worried about it. It's not going to go crazy. And, I don't know where you are, but where I am, corporate is all over the place. And I remember reading that and thinking, wow, I couldn't disagree with this more. I am 55 years old. I lived through all of the office stores, which always used to be local mom and pop stores, going out of business as the big box office retailers opened. Same thing with the local hardware stores as the big box hardware stores opened. We saw local markets. When I was growing up, in Kentucky, there was little country stores all over the place. You don't have little country stores anymore because there's a big retail store that is now all over rural America. And so I saw all of that, and I looked at dental, and it just made sense to me that as companies grow, there's an economy of scale that they sort of generate. It makes it easier for them to continue to grow. So like if I said, you know what, I think I want to add 5 new locations, it's a lot different than a corporate that already has 1,000 locations saying, I want to add 5 more locations. And I stood back and I thought, I just don't think this is true. I think corporate's going to grow way more than this person is saying. And while I don't have the numbers, I can tell you for sure in our area and other parts of the country, corporate dentistry has absolutely exploded. And it has made it a challenge for us in private practice in a lot of areas. And I'll tell you the place where I believe corporate dentistry puts the biggest hurt on us is for employees, because there's a corporate dental office on every corner. And I would just say, I'm not anti-corporate dental. So that's not where I'm coming from. More competition makes us more sharp. And that's kind of the point of where I'm going with this podcast is there's a corporate dental on every corner. There's a lot more dental practices where we are. And so in the past, if, let's just to use a fake number, let's say there's 10 job openings in dentistry in our market. Well, there will be 20 people looking for a job. So it was easier for us as business owners to find people. Now, if there's 20 people looking for a job, there's 200 job openings. It's completely switched. And so for us, corporate dentistry has really played a big impact on us, particularly as it relates to employees available out there in the marketplace. And so my point is, when I look back at, I guess, two couple of points. One point is, when I look back at that article several years ago, it didn't strike me as making any sense. And one of the things I would say is that there are certain things that that dictate how business runs. And you can use your experience and what you're observing out there in the business world and make some pretty good hunches about what's going to happen in our industry without having to necessarily listen to what the experts are saying, because the experts are not always right. Now, I'm not saying don't listen to the experts. I'm saying listen to the experts, but don't underestimate your own intuition if you are observant with what's going on in the business world. And, rely on your instincts. If you are observant, I think you should rely on your instincts. And we did, and that's one of the things that helped prepare us for where we are today. And the second point that I wanted to say as we talk about the future of dentistry is I believe that it's more important than ever to get really good at what you do. And with Pugh Leadership Academy, we teach the human side of business. That's where we specialize in, is human side of business. And because we have been, and I hate this, sounds kind of weird to say, but because we've been so good in developing the human side of business, we've been able to insulate ourselves to a large degree from the impact of corporate dentistry with regard to the patients that we have in our office. The patients that come here, they don't want to go to corporate. The patients that come here, they don't want to have the experience that you get in a very high volume insurance practice. They want a really warm environment with a team of doctors and staff that they can trust. They want to know that they're going to get good dentistry. And so when we think about the future of dentistry, how's AI going to play into it? How are the dental schools fees, the type of debt that students are coming out, how is that going to play into it? What's corporate going to do? Are practices going to continue to sell for the amount of money that they sell now? Are doctors going to be selling practices with the same sort of working contracts where they have to work for a while after? There's all these things that I don't know. And the thing that I would recommend, or the thing that I would suggest, is in addition to, using a little bit of your tuition and not relying too heavily on what the experts say, because they're wrong all the time. And I don't mean dental experts are wrong all the time. I just mean experts are wrong all the time in general. Is lock down, lock down on your practice in the sense of really being good. Get locked in is probably the expression that I'm trying to look for. Really be good. And there's more to being good in dentistry than just prepping a good crown and delivering a good crown. So much more that goes into that with the psychology of what's going on with the patient, psychology of what's going on with your team, and the psychology of what's going on with yourself and how happy and engaged you are in your practice. If you lock in really, really hard on, I'm going to be really good in my leadership, and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to really master the human side of business, and I'm not really even trying to self-promote, but that's where we set ourselves apart. So I'm going to lock in. I'm going to lock in on the human side of business. I'm going to lock in on standardizing our work, on our processes, so that we have excellent quality. And I'm going to do good dentistry. And if you do a really, 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 really good job of that, to a degree, you insulate yourself from the effect of insurance companies. You insulate yourself to a degree from the effect of the economy, and you insulate yourself to a degree from the effect of corporate dentistry. So trust your gut, be observant about what's going on in the economy. Don't lock in on one particular news channel, and just use some intuition and common sense, and then get really good and make how good you are with the human side of dentistry, with the quality side, having strong processes within your office, and those two things, and really set yourself apart from everyone else. Be better than everyone else in those, to insulate yourself to a degree from a lot of the challenges that we have out here in the dental world. And that is capitalism. That is free trade, fair trade, free trade, competition, and all of that drives you to be better and better and better. Now, we have a course on world-class culture. I think it's an excellent course. If you're struggling, if you're stressed, or you're, you haven't found a voice that matters or works for you, or maybe you are an associate, you work in a practice, you're an office manager, you work in a practice, and you think your doctor should take a look at this, I really encourage you to. We have a heart to help. So much of what Pugh Leadership Academy and the courses that we're doing, so much of that comes from me having been with Melanie now over 30 years. We've been married over 30 years, started dating the summer before her second year of dental school. And so much of the spirit of this business, Pugh Leadership Academy, and these courses comes from my heart of just being there with Melanie through so many stressful years. And so I hope that you can, if you're seeing this on YouTube, like and subscribe, as all the YouTubers ask you to do. If you're listening to it on a podcast, ask you to subscribe. I ask you to join our community on Facebook. And if you feel the draw to take our current culture course, ask that you take a look at that as well. So podcast number 1 is a wrap. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.